I'm going to start this off by acknowledging that the contents of this video will upset a lot of people. The Mercedes-Benz SLS AMG is not going to be in it. How can we possibly make a video about the most iconic AMGs and not include the SLS in its gull-wing doors? The reasoning is simple. To us, AMG is at its best when it's being utterly ridiculous. Notable examples include the second generation CLK 55, which was basically a huge 5.5-liter V8 with a wheel and seats strapped on. But even that car wasn't crazy enough to make the list. So, let's dig into the 5 most ridiculous, and therefore the best, AMGs ever made. First up, the R63 AMG. In 2005, Mercedes-Benz decided it needed a minivan. Perhaps the vice beer was flowing a bit too freely during a product meeting, but no matter. What the planners ended up with was a dire warning to all those who don't use the necessary contraception. If you have too many kids, you'll have to give up the E-Class for one of these bad boys instead. But what about the parents who are permanently late for school, thought the surely half-drunk AMG engineers? Viva solves this problem, they said. That's an actual transcript of the meeting. True story. The result was a 500 horsepower family wagon with a hand-built 6.2-liter V8 and all-wheel drive. It could rocket the family from 0 to 60 miles an hour in 4.6 seconds and create more vomit than a sun-dried chicken breast in a plastic bag. Predictably, it was a massive flop. But here's a tip for you. Because it failed so hard, only 200 AMG models were made. That makes it more exclusive than the Mercedes-AMG 1 hypercar. Last time we checked, there was one for sale for $37,000 out in Arizona. Bargain. Also, Arizona guy, DM us. In fourth place, we have the Mercedes-Benz CLK GTR. Even though it's not strictly an AMG product, we make exceptions for literal race cars built in a Falta Rock. It dates back to 1997, before AMG became part of the Mercedes brand. Mercedes wanted to enter the European GT Championship, and it needed to build 25 homologation cars. It turned to AMG for help, and it came up with an elongated E-Class coupe with a 6.8-liter V12, mated to a 6-speed sequential gearbox. The V12 made 592 horsepower and 572 pound-feet of torque. The term race car for the road is one of the oldest motoring cliches, we'll give you that, but here, it's very literally true. These cars went to 25 lucky owners, equipped as standard with onboard pneumatic jacks like a Le Mans car. Imagine pulling up in front of Costco in one of these bad boys. Now that we're halfway through this list, it's time to get serious. And you can't do a list like this without including the E55 AMG. It was arguably the first time AMG made the automotive world at large sit up and take notice. A few years before the E55 made its debut in 2002, BMW launched the E39 M5, which many still believe to be the best performance saloon ever built. But, in true AMG fashion, it didn't try and beat BMW by making the E55 handle like a fatter Lotus. It followed the AMG way, which was to add more power. The E39 had a naturally aspirated 5-liter V8, producing 400 horsepower. So, Mercedes hit back with a supercharged 5.4-liter V8. It made 469 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque. AMG actually had to electronically limit the torque because its 5-speed gearbox could not cope with the 796 pound-feet the engine could actually produce. Driving this car is, of course, pretty comical. On any kind of slippery surface, the traction control lights up and turns the interior into a disco. Turn the traction control off, and the car will refuse to stay in a straight line. It wants to kill you, and honestly, we're kinda into that. When we started this list, we said that we weren't gonna put the SLS AMG on here because it wasn't crazy enough. It wasn't AMG enough. The Mercedes AMG G63 6x6 is. Did the world need a G-Class with an extra axle, portal axles on top of that, and a twin-turbo V8? Heck no. But that's exactly why it needed to exist. Now, we have had the pleasure of driving this monster, and we do have some disappointing news. It's really, really slow. As in 0 to 60 in 8 seconds slow. Your mom's Altima is faster, and to be totally honest, you could start running and be faster too. While driving this particular beast, we used a hired Ford Taurus to do tracking shots. Rather annoyingly, we had to jump on the radio several times to ask the Taurus driver to slow it down, simply because the 6x6 couldn't keep up. If you want to make a statement, however, there's no better bends. What that statement is debatable. Here we are. This is the end. The CLK 63 AMG Black Series is the gnarliest AMG ever made. It would simply not be possible to introduce it today without AMG facing a multitude of lawsuits, most of them having to do with emissions. Early reports suggested it would be a tarted up CLK, which was a mediocre car at best. But along came the Black with a beefier 6.2-liter V8 producing 500 horsepower and 465 pound-feet of torque. AMG also removed the rear seats, added a set of buckets to the front, and pasted an aggressive body kit over the exterior, because enough is not enough. The most significant update was the racing spec differential. It took a while to warm up, and the whining noises it made were deeply satisfying and deeply race car. If you drove like a team with the keys to Daddy's vet, it would kill you. Deader than dead. Super tot, as the Germans would say. Because it was so fierce, AMG included a nifty safety feature. Each car was delivered with a letter stating just how dangerous it is. Now that is something that you might want to hang up on the fridge.